This information is very important to know ahead of time before you start your new construction house hunt and process, or even thinking about buying a new construction house. Before doing anything, watch this video. It might impact the way you decide to move forward. If you're considering buying or building a home anywhere in the United States, this applies to you. It's a very important subject. This is something that you need to know and that most people are completely unaware of. So grab a glass of wine and kick back with me for a few minutes while I go over the dollars and cents and the real cost of new construction mortgages and how that impacts you. Okay, let's start by discussing the different types of home builders so we can determine which builder and which scenario applies to your situation. There are 3 different types of builders if we want to generalize and kind of put it into a bucket. There's the tract builder, the spec builder, and the custom builder. A tract builder is just a fancy word for production builder. That's the type of builder that buys large pieces of land, creates subdivisions, big neighborhoods. They have a choice of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different floor plans. I'm sure you're envisioning something exactly like that in your mind right now from wherever you're from. National builders that might ring a bell to you that fit this category are Taylor Morrison, Lennar, Pulte, D.R. Horton, Adams Homes, Ryan Homes. There's a bunch, but those are some really common ones, and maybe you recognize one of those. If you're nodding your head, yes, tract builder, that's the type of builder that applies to your situation. Then from a purchase perspective, unless you're paying cash, you'd be financing the purchase with a mortgage. Usually the tract builder wants 10 to 20%, give or take, down as a deposit, and then you don't bring any additional funds to the table until the very end when you close on the property. And that's when you'll take on your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA fees, utilities, all the costs associated with now owning the house. They're yours at that time, at the closing, once the home is complete. The key point I'm making here is that once you've provided the deposit and gone to contract with a tract builder, you don't bring any additional funds to the table until the very end. You're not responsible for any of the carrying costs as the home is being built. All right, so that covers tract builders. Let's talk about spec builders. A spec builder is a builder that builds a house with or without the buyer already lined up. They pick the floor plan, the tile, the color, the finishes, etc., and they proceed with the build with the understanding and expectation that they eventually will find a buyer for that house, whether it's in process or at the point of when it's finished. And a key point to make is that tract builders can also spec houses out. So when a tract builder specs a house and they make all those decisions with no buyer already lined up, they'll call that an inventory house or a move-in ready house or even a spec house. But the main takeaway here is that spec and tract operate in the same scenario with the mortgage the way I described it for tract. Usually those big builders that I mentioned fit that scenario. So if you're looking in that realm, that mortgage situation applies to you. Okay, with me so far? You're probably saying, big deal, this is all stuff that I already knew, I don't understand, what's the catch, what are you trying to get at? Here's where it gets interesting. If you're considering building in the luxury market or a custom builder, something in that realm, you're likely going to need a specific type of mortgage called a CP loan. C like cat, P like Peter. The CP stands for construction to permanent. Now here's the thing with a CP loan. Compared to the mortgage scenarios and situations that we talked about with tract and spec builders, the CP loan comes with a lot of additional costs. When you get a CP loan, you finance the construction. The financial responsibility is on you from day one. And maybe you're thinking, no big deal, but let me explain a little bit. When you close on the CP loan, you're actually closing on the land first. And there's a little chunk added onto that that gives the builder some cushion and some funds to get started with things like material orders, permits, the beginning stages of the construction. So now you've closed on the CP loan, you own the land, you are the landowner, not the builder. And there's an additional fund draw that gets the construction started. And are you seeing the difference already? The builder in the CP loan scenario is not the one that fronts all the cash to build the house. The tract and the spec builders, after you give them the deposit, they fund the entire construction. They're not asking you for money along the way. With the CP loan, the builder is looking to you and your mortgage company for the funding of the construction. And with that information, some of you are probably sipping your wine just a little bit faster right now going, But there's a little bit more that I haven't told you yet. The repayment of the CP loan starts on day one. Yep, on day one, you start making your mortgage payments. And then as the construction progresses from stage to stage, the builder will request a draw, which then adds to the loan balance of the CP loan. And the draw will be, let's say, for roof trusses or cabinets or whatever the next stages of construction may be. So you have X amount of dollars that you've spent on the land and you're paying your payments. Then you do a draw and that number increases. You're making your payments on that new number. The next draw, you make your payments based on that number, and it keeps on going. And all the while, you don't have a house to show for it yet because the house is going to be built. So that balance grows and grows and grows. A typical new construction takes 12 to 16 months. It really depends on you and your region and how fast the builders are building. In our area, 14, 16, sometimes even longer if it's an intricate house. And guess what else? There's more. You own the land, right? And you know who knows that? The tax collector. So they're going to send you a tax bill to pay the property taxes from day one. You also have to pay property insurance on the land. And now here's a huge, huge caveat. There's all those costs that I told you about. And most of those people can say, okay, whatever. But this is one that people don't think about. If you're building in a community that has an HOA, homeowners association, the second you close, you are the owner of the land, you have to pay the HOA fees too. And if a 16-month build, let's say, and the HOA fees are $500 a month, that's $8,000 before you ever have keys to a house that you can actually use. Surprise! I know that was a lot to digest, but I have one more thing. And I hate to do this to you at this point, but I'm going to throw one more curveball at you that kind of muddies up the water. Some custom and semi-custom home builders actually do take the first kind of loan, the one that doesn't make you carry all the costs the entire time, the non-CP loan. Now you're thinking, oh, come on, how do I figure this out? How do I even keep this straight? But it is true. There are a couple of communities, for example, here in Lakewood Ranch where we sell real estate in Florida. Just at first glance from looking at it based on the size of the home, the style of the home, their luxury properties, you would think that they're going to be in that CP category, but they're not. And you don't know that, which is a huge perk, because if you don't want that CP situation, you don't want to carry the cost, but you want a luxury home builder, you need to know which communities, which builders, which segments of which builders are going to accept which type of mortgage. As you can see, this information is very important to know ahead of time before you start your new construction house hunt and process, or even thinking about buying a new construction house, because it might impact the way you decide to move forward. And unfortunately, this stuff usually doesn't get talked about or discussed until later in the process, when really it needs to be talked about right up front. I know it was a lot, but quick summary, 3 types of builders, 2 types of mortgages in general. And you have to figure out what you want, who builds it, and what type of mortgage they accept. Okay, I'm done. I've said enough, and hopefully I haven't scared you away. But in all honesty, if you're considering new construction and you need some assistance with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If you're considering a particular community here in the Manatee, Sarasota County, Florida, Lakewood Ranch area, and you're curious whether they take a specific type of loan, let us know. You can either throw it in the comments or just give us a call, text, email. I'll put a link in the description as well, and you can just shoot us a quick message and we can talk about the options that make the most sense for you. I'm Michael Chankis with Charles Ruttenberg Realty here in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. And for my wife, Courtney, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the thumbs up button below. We put out videos like this as frequently as we can with useful information that helps you in your real estate search.